And I now call Claire Baker to be followed by Sharon Dowie. Ms Baker, up to 4 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I want to thank Tess White for securing a members' debate on the research which has been undertaken by the Women's Research Network into safety in hospitals. I was able to highlight this research in a debate last week, and I have previously raised the report at First Minister's questions. I felt the response received on that occasion could have been more expansive, and I hope that the Minister is able to engage more fully with the topic this evening. I want to thank the Women's Research Network for their work exposing the levels of sexual assaults and rapes in our hospitals. It was not an easy task. It was laborious, as at first the figures weren't available, but they did persist. By identifying the number of rapes and sexual assaults taking place in hospitals in Scotland through FOIs, they have highlighted the extent of the problem, and the figures are shocking. Almost 250 sexual assaults and rapes have taken place in Scottish hospitals over the last 5 years. 163 of these rapes and sexual assaults happened on hospital wards, though it is important to say we don't know if these are single-sex or mixed-sex wards. The figures from Police Scotland are more shocking when you find out they only came from 57 of the 198 hospitals in Scotland. If we take into account that this includes pandemic years, where the hospital population was reduced and visitors were heavily restricted, it is clear that these figures are likely to reflect underreporting, not just because these offences are often underreported across society. As well as shining a light on these horrendous crimes, the report highlights the areas where there is a lack of information, and that makes it more challenging to provide a policy response. Presiding Officer, patients in hospital are vulnerable, frail and dependent on others for meeting their needs. At times they will be unconscious or disorientated. They are often in a state of undress and they are in unfamiliar surroundings. We know the pressure our hospitals are under. In Fife, we regularly have ambulances waiting outside A&E as they can't admit people, and through flow is at times impossible as there is a lack of suitable beds. The recent report from the Royal College of Nursing describes a collapse in care standards across Scotland's hospitals, with increasing reports of corridor care, leaving people in very vulnerable and undignified settings. All these conditions could lead to opportunistic attacks. The limited information that the Women's Research Network were able to obtain leaves many unanswered questions. When we're thinking about how to respond, how to improve safeguarding and security, there are so many uncertainties. It is not certain whether assaults were carried out by other patients or staff, or if they were carried out on patients or staff, though the high number on a hospital ward suggests that patients are often the victim. Most concerning was that the research found assaults were not routinely recorded. It would appear that sometimes they are underplayed or minimised, as if the setting excuses some behaviours, and that is reflected in 133 hospitals not holding the data. The First Minister was right when he said that all sexual assaults are against the law and they should be immediately reported to the police. This is similar to the statements from NHS boards, who say that when incidents are reported, they are encouraged to report to the police. However, I don't think these responses sufficiently reflect on the significance of the location and our responsibility to the NHS patients and staff. There is little examination of these figures, little understanding why Stop Hill, the Royal Infirmary and private hospital Signet Wallace have the highest rates, and why women should accept being at a greater risk in psychiatric hospitals. There is scant evidence of the figures being taken seriously as a collective issue by NHS boards or government. There is no piece of work which asks why this is happening in hospitals and what steps will be taken to prevent further rapes and assaults. The report from the Women's Rights Network makes a number of recommendations that I urge the Scottish Government and NHS boards to consider how to make progress on, including steps to minimise the risk of sexual assault, to maintain accurate recording of incidents and make greater progress on single-sex wards in all settings. We must not ignore this research and we must see action. Thank you.